Hi. So, to begin, could I ask you all to introduce yourselves and tell us your most important policy?
Hi, I'm Finn, and my most important policy is to provide more support for lower income students through activities access grants.
Thank you.
I'm Jack Rewcroft, and my most important policy is to make more use of HES East, or Campus East.
Hi, my name's Jack Worrell, and my most important policy is the bars booking system, where folk can go online, book bars, book venues, book tables in all the campus bars, hassle-free.
Okay, thank you. So, next, could I hear about the relevant experience you guys have and how it's going to help you if you do get the position?
Brilliant. So I spent some time editing the campus newspaper news, and that's a lot of fun, and I dealt with USU quite extensively through that. I've seen that sometimes it can be quite bureaucratic, a little bit bossy, but overall I do like the work that the union does, and I'm really passionate about societies and more students getting involved, and I feel like it's given me so many opportunities, and I just wouldn't want anyone else to miss out on that.
Thank you.
I've been on committee of both URY and UC volunteering, so it's given me like a different side. I've seen the side from USU, like how I've organised how much money the volunteering projects get. I've in the committee to decide that, but also from society side, finding out or just what knowing what a society needs.
Thank you.
So I've run lots of campaigns in my time at university. I've also been the president of a very small society, the European Union Society. I know that students need an interactive resource hub, so then they know how to do the day-to-day activities to run a society. I've been the treasurer of the Darts Club. I've worked with the campus bars, so I know how hard it is to organise events, how hard it is to book out venues. The Darts Club also this year have done a brilliant job in supporting our charity, the Juvenile Diabetes Research Fund. I want to extend that to all groups that want to raise money for their own charities.
Thank you. So, all of you have held committee positions then. Has there ever been a problem within your society that you have managed to overcome?
Yes, and that often came from certain disagreements with USU. So every time a campus newspaper wants to publish, we have to go through USU. They're the ones who pay for it after all, and we're very grateful for that. Often it's legality checks. Sometimes it's to do with the reputation of USU. And we've had a couple of issues where perhaps the union has overstepped and it's looking to protect its reputation at the expense of free speech and accountability. So often that's been about holding your ground and making sure that fairness prevails and that there is a balance between accountability and well-being. Often I think USU doesn't always get that right, and that can be in both ways. And I think ultimately free speech is something that does need to be safeguarded, and it's often something that may having discussions behind closed doors. But I definitely think that the union can do more to make sure that it's allowing itself to be held to account. So if elected, I'd definitely have discussions within USU with staff members to make sure that if there are a few dodgy articles about the union, it might be annoying to us as employees, but we'll have to let it slide.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for me, I'd say in being in committees, I feel that there can sometimes be a very a big diversion in the amount of work specific to, different people do within the committee. So you'll have one person who does so much work, and then somebody else who has an equal position but does nothing. So I feel that's just an issue. I feel like it's just maybe the nature of the beast with committees themselves, and just that there's always going to be some people who work harder than others. But I feel that from my experience of being committees, I feel that is an issue I've faced in particular.
So one problem that we have in the Darts Club is we use storage space on campus. That storage space gets messy. It means that we can store less in there. We, over the last few years, have got a very accessible dart stand which allows wheelchair players to play against standing players, and we needed to fit it in. So what we did was we organised with the other societies a clean-up of that store cupboard, which drastically improved the space in that store cupboard. That's why, as activities officer, I want to introduce for all society store cupboards timely storage room clean-ups where I personally go down with the relevant societies and help clean out that store cupboard to maximise the space that we all have.
Okay, thank you very much. So next I'd like to start talking about your policies. So an activities officer doesn't just deal with Freshers Week, you also deal with volunteering and RAG. So I volunteer at the Jorvik Centre in York, but that's something I found on my own. How are you going to ensure that other students find relevant volunteering opportunities, and how are you going to help them?
Well, I think that you're in the similar position to a lot of students who will find volunteering opportunities through many avenues, whether that's the City Council, through careers, through UC volunteering, and they all do a brilliant job. But currently there's not a centralised way to find those opportunities, and there's not a centralised way for you to be recognised for the hours you put in. If elected, I would definitely work more with careers and the City Council to actually provide a portal for opportunities where you can access them and actually partner with them to make sure that students are getting awards if they've done fantastic stuff. And really just recognising that a lot of students are already volunteering, they just need the structure to make them feel validated, supported going forward, and of course to promote it, because we can always have more students and the university is growing, and I think that volunteering needs to be something that becomes part of our DNA.
I agree, thank you.
Yeah, volunteering is obviously quite close to my heart from being on committee in the UC volunteering, and I'd say the main issue for UC volunteering itself, which if I was activities officer, that I'd be able to try and improve, is just the accessibility of information and the people not really knowing. I think there's a big issue that people not really knowing the difference between RAG and volunteering. And I feel that is something I really want to push, because volunteering is about, there's 14 amazing projects that go on throughout the year and are all student run, and I feel there's just the availability of the knowledge of them is just not known whatsoever, and I feel like it's not known as well as it could be, and I feel that that's so I'd work with the volunteering officer, but at the moment there is nobody running for volunteering officer. I think that's an issue within itself, but I would try and work with the volunteering officer or officers to try and improve the accessibility and the knowledge of volunteering.
Thank you, Jack.
So I completely agree with the two previous candidates that volunteering is massively important in York. I do think that the volunteering committee do a good job at the moment on advertising, but also when it comes to community outreach, I feel that that's also an important part of volunteering. So what we've done in the Darts Club, we've made accessible events, community outreach. We worked with the WDDA, which is the World Disability Darts Association, to put on a fantastic disability darts event where we saw the folk from the WDDA come in, play a team from the university. I refereed the whole day. It was a fantastic event. I think we need to encourage people and tell them, you can do this, you can work with other groups from outside of UC to promote accessibility on campus, in other societies, in other groups.
Thank you. So you all also mentioned RAG in your manifestos, but something I was really interested to see was that you all have completely different solutions to the problem at hand. So if I could ask you what you believe is the current problem and why your specific solution, if you could explain that, is the correct one.
I think the current problem is that student groups, fantastic as they are, don't always know how to take ownership of how to raise thousands of pounds for charity. So while I would definitely bring in some workshops from the university fundraisers, OPA, who do a fantastic job, I would like to see more league tables between colleges and student groups to encourage competition. So if Derwent and Vanbrugh and other colleges are having, a face-off as to who can get that award at the end of the year, get that competitive spirit going, hold student groups to account on how much they are raising, and perhaps incentivise them to do so, then I think that's a really positive step. Because I think if there's one thing that we know about student groups, that they are very competitive, whether that's News or Vision, Langwood or Goodrick, and I think that's definitely something we can harness and turn something that's really fun.
Okay, thank you.
I'd say for me, from my knowledge of the RAG committee and the volunteer, they do work hard, but I feel like there's a bit of a problem sometimes with the roles that people have within the RAG committee, and I feel like there's sometimes a bit of a disorganisation sometimes with how things have been run in the past, and I feel like that, I feel like there is a need for just a bit more organisation within the RAG committee itself.
Thank you.
So I think I have to completely disagree with the league table idea. I don't think charity is about competition. I think what we have at the moment, we have student groups that have people with a direct connection with charities. My president, Mark Curran's been fantastic in installing the Juvenile Diabetes Research Fund into the heart of the Darts Club. And that's what's put us raised money for that charity, nearly £2,000. I think there's other student groups with that direct link. I think if we allow them to raise money for their own charity, I think that will drive the charitable force across this campus.
Okay, thank you very much.
If I could just come back on the point about league tables.
We're actually running out of time, so I'm going to have to say you
that's
can't.
fine.
But thank you all for talking to us today. Thank you.
So thank you to Rosie, Jack, Finn and Jack there. Unfortunately,